Hey, you guys, I'm back. And you know what? We're going to be talking about law and order, organized crime today. That's right. Let's get into it. Law and order, organized crime today. That's right. Let's get into it. So when we come on the scene today, we see Elliott, of course, because this is his thing. I'm really digging this new music. I mean, it's not new, but it's a new feel to the music. And the scenery as they come on, it's amazing. I mean, I wrote down some of the new names that we're going to be dealing with, like Danielle Truitt, Tamira Taylor, which we've seen somewhere before, Ansley Seeger, and Dylan McDermott, who we've seen before. So let's just recap what happened. We know that Kathy has died, who is Elliott's wife. We know that Elliott has come back and Liv has seen him. So we know that Liv has been to the funeral, that Elliott is not having it. He's going to try to solve this crime to see who killed his wife. But in the meantime, he's joined this new task force that's working on getting Richard Wheatley, who basically makes these drugs and has his hand in a little bit of everything. His father was a mafia boss, and Elliott is going to try to come down to that. So he's dealing with his loss. Not really, but he's also trying to work cases and do his job. You know what I'm saying? So he looks into the mirror, we see, when he gets up, and he just stares at himself. You know, I think he's trying to get himself together, you know, and I don't know. I guess we see what he's thinking. He's thinking about his wife and his kids. Now, he gets in the car with Sergeant Ayanna Bell, who is now working on this task force. Well, she's been working on this task force for this whole time to get this guy. So Elliott's kind of new. Elliott's old school, and he's got 35 years on the force, but he's working with this girl. But anyway, let's stay focused. They drive to a crime scene that Elliott has already been to, but he hasn't told her that. We know the last time that Mr. Sinatra was murdered. We're thinking it was his son. We don't really know. So in between that time of them going to the scene of that, we also see a frame of a truck. There's a delivery truck, a big, huge Mack truck that has supplies or whatever inside of it. It's stopped because a train is coming, you know, the railroad thing goes down, and he stopped just like he's supposed to do. Now, he meets up with this guy. This guy's like, I don't see no train coming. So obviously, this guy in the truck driver, is being escorted with the guy that got out of his car to see what was up and why he was stopped by a train. But while he's been stopped by a train, these guys in 3 SUVs roll up deep, and they start shooting. They shoot the guy that he's being escorted by, and they break into the truck. Inside the truck is COVID-19 vaccines. Now, these vaccines have to be kept cold. They have to be maintained, because if they're not, they no good. We can't use them. You know what I'm saying? So they break in there and they take them. And they, you know, even watch this guy run, because the truck driver's like, I'm out of here. So he starts running. I know it's not funny, y'all, but he starts running, but he ain't running fast enough, okay? So they end up shooting him in the leg. But you see this gun silhouette, and then you see this guy's eyes. And I'm thinking, is that Elliott? Because he kind of like resembles Elliott, right? Anyway, so we get back to the fact that he wants to catch Sinatra's son, who we know is named Richard Wheatley. Now, he changed his name to Wheatley because he hates his dad's last name. So anyway, we see him sitting at the dinner table with his new wife, who happens to be African American, and they are with friends. He's telling his friends he's going to be throwing a party, a vaccine party, so if they want to roll through and get their vaccine, they can do that. So he gets the call from his ex-wife, He takes it at the table, and his ex-wife said, well, you know what? The police just left here. They said your dad was murdered. Well, of course he plays it off. And but he kind of looks worried. Like, he looks worried for real. And I'm thinking, did he do it? You know what I'm saying? Did he do it, or did he just threaten his dad and somebody else did it? It could have been a hit, you know. I mean, he was in the mafia, and he was the boss. Well, I'm thinking he did it. So he's telling people he's got a shipment coming in, and we know that the shipment that just came in might not have been his. Obviously, it wasn't his, because I'm thinking he had those guys to rob this guy and get these COVID-19 vaccines. So, like I said, Elliott's on the job. He's trying to do this. You know, this truck has been raided, so they get a call about that. So now they have to work on that, okay? And the murder of Mr. Sinatra. So they work the scene. They find out that a tourniquet was put on the driver's leg, and his new sergeant that he's working with, Sergeant Ayana, she asked him, she says, who put the tourniquet on old boy's leg? And he's like, he finds out that the shooter actually put the tourniquet on that guy's leg. So he didn't want to kill him. So something going on here, because he killed the other guy. Elliott calls Liv while he's, you know, doing his job in between, and he says, look, don't tell anybody what happened last night. I need to talk to you first. You know, that's kind of suspicious. And he hangs up. He leaves her a message. So we know that we get a few new people to this crew. Detective Diego Morales from GVSD, and Elliott's like, what is GVSD? It's Gun Violence Suppression Division. So that's where he comes from. So he's going to be working with him. And Elliott's like, okay, I got some skin in the game, but I didn't, know this happened. So the guy was like, oh yeah, we established it in 2006. Anyway, we see that tech girl again, the white hat hacker. Her name is Slattermaker. We see her. She's now working with them. She's a whiz on computers. She really knows what she can do, okay? So she's told to follow the money. They think that Richard has something to do with this. So they tell her to follow his finances, get into it, okay? Break it down. She finds out, because she good like that he uses dark web sales. He's already published several different companies. He moves his money around because he pushes purple magic. Purple magic is a really bad drug. They say it's worse than fentanyl, and it's out on the streets, and it's expensive, and this guy is doing it. That's the initial reason why they want to arrest him. I mean, the murder is something else. They want to get him because he's pushing drugs out here that is deadly. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, she finds out that he's bought this corporation, and it's an ice cream corporation. So not only does he own it, but think about it. These vaccines have to be refrigerated. You get what I'm saying? You see what I'm going? So Elliott says, you know what? I never met this guy. I want to meet him. So they pull up on him outside his building. He's there with his daughter, Richard, and they're about to go to his dad's funeral, Mr. Sinatra. And Elliott says, basically, I think you're a crook. I think you're a scumbag. And Elliott gets in, his face, Rich's face. Well, Isaac, the security guard, kind of like gets in there, and Elliott's like, what you doing? What you doing? Because, no. So Richard said he has an alibi. He said he was at the house with his ex-wife talking about his son's birthday party, because they got a grown son, a couple of sons actually, and this son is turning 30. So he need a birthday party. Who? You grown. Your parents throwing you a birthday party at 30? Get a job, okay? So anyway, we know that he lying because he wasn't with his ex-wife that night, but Elliott don't know that. But Elliott's like, I'm gonna prove it. And the guy tells him, Richard tells him, extraordinary accusations call for extraordinary evidence. And Elliott's like, I'm gonna get it, and you gonna go to jail. basically. So he is not intimidated by this guy at all. But we know Elliott. Who does intimidate him? Maybe Liv, but that's about it. So he tells him about the vaccines that have been stolen. And he's like, well, I don't know nothing about that. I got to go to this funeral. I got to go. So he goes. So I thought it was really funny scene when Elliott and Sergeant Ariana looked at each other after he left. And Elliott was like, well, I guess that went well. And she was like, huh, yeah. So this guy is into everything. He's dirty all around. So Detective Eddie Washburn, who is new to this crew, well, he's new to Elliott, but he's not new to Sergeant Ariana. They've worked together before. They're looking for a car. They're looking for the truck. They use the vehicle videos from the city in order to find this truck. And they find this truck. It's a Nitro Nibbles truck, and it's a freezer truck that Richard owns. Oh, how convenient. Okay, he owns a truck that keeps everything 122 degrees below zero. Really? And these things need to be refrigerated at least 18 degrees below zero. How convenient. Well, anyway, they think that the vaccines were stolen and put into that truck. So Richard goes home. Well, actually, he doesn't. He goes to his ex-wife's house. But she don't know he up in the house because it's dark. She on the phone. She obviously hooking up a date because she talking about wine and when she going to be there. And so Richard said, well, who's this guy? Well, obviously he scared her because he's sitting there in the dark, murmuring in corners and stuff. So that would have scared me too. She like, look, don't be coming to my house like this. And he's like, why? You come to my house like this, So obviously they got something going because he gets in her face like he finna kiss her. And she gets in his face like she finna accept it. She calls him a couple of names or whatever, but they look like they still sleeping together. You know what I'm saying? So they still close. So Slaughtermaker makes a program. She looks at the social media accounts of the employees at Richard's place because they can't get into Richard's place. They don't have any reason. They don't have a warrant. And she can't spy on his place without a warrant. So she says, okay, I'll just build a program and I'll look at his employees, Facebooks and stuff like that. So that's what she does. Because these guys, they like to make the ice cream products. And when they fall off of the belt, the conveyor belt, they like to pick them up and eat them. And they take photos. How dumb. But anyway, they take photos. And in one of the photos, the employee is standing in front of rows and rows of refrigerated COVID-19 vaccines. That's it. They got proof. So now they can raid the place. So they go in deep, you know what I'm saying? Like they're going to bust them. But when they get there, what happens? Nothing. Because they move the shipment. The shipment is gone. Okay, they need to think. This guy is smart. Okay, they got to get up early in the morning to put past him. So Liv takes Noah to school. And then we see Elliott get in her car. Now, I thought she was going to introduce him to Noah. But once again, she didn't do it. So Elliott gets in the car. He gives her a coffee. He says, look, I drove mine. I drank mine, but here's yours. And she says, thank you. And he looks at her and he says, do you drive him to school every day? And she says, when I can, every time I can. And he says, well, you're a good mom. And she says, thank you. She wants to know what happened the other night. Remember when she showed up in the vestibule of his building? And she was trying to ask him, about the letter. She was trying to talk to him about that. And he was like, well, I can't talk right now. And she was like, but why you can't talk right now? She said, look, what's going on? Don't act like you don't know. You brand new or something. You know what happened. When I came there, you was sweating. You was staggering your words. You was trying to basically get away from me. So what's going on? So she tells him, look, I'm a captain now, and I have to be responsible for everyone. I have to be responsible for the people that work for me. I have to be responsible for the victims that we deal with. So I recognize PTSD, and I think that's what you have. He starts laughing so hard. He's like, I've been on the job 35 years. And she says, well, you know what? Your wife was just murdered right in front of you. You know, that's got to throw you for a loop or something. You know, and he says, you know, yeah, you're right. And she says, well, if you want me to back off, I'll back off. And he says, yeah, back off. And Olivia gets this look like, I'm trying to help you. You know what I'm saying? She getting this look, and she even tells him, I'm worried about you. You know, she's trying to talk to him. And he tells us, he says, Liv, look, you mean the world to me. You mean the world to me. But I'm going to need you to back off. So she looks like, okay. And I guess she's just going to have to back off. You know what I'm saying? He appreciates her efforts, but basically he's saying, mind your business, okay? And I thought, how rude. Here you come in Olivia's life. She didn't ask for you to come back in her life after all this time. And then the fact that she's willing to sit down and talk to you about it after you done hurt her feelings all these years, and then you tell her to back off, man, bye. Okay? I'd be like, see you. But anyway, we know Olivia is not like that. So in order to get to Richard, they staged Elliott a date on a dating site to meet someone that they know wants a shot from this doctor that Richard is supplying the COVID-19 vaccines to. Okay, did you hear me? Okay. Elliott, they set him up on a date with a woman who wants the vaccine, who has paid money to this famous doctor who has stolen COVID-19 vaccines that have been supplied to him by Richard. So we see them go in there to the doctor's office, and they, you know, basically bust him, you know, because he's selling these shots. But before they can do all of that, let me back up a minute. Elliott meets this lady for the date at a really nice looking restaurant. I was like, oh, it's so cute up in here. But anyway, because it's kind of like outside, inside. Anyway, stay focused. So he meets her outside, and he can't do it. You know, his wife just died. He loved Kathy. So he tells her, look, my name's not really whatever his name's supposed to be. I am Elliott. I'm a cop. And basically, I'm only here to bust this guy that's buying stolen, you know, who's selling stolen COVID-19 vaccines. And she's like, all the nerve, you know what I'm saying? I don't really want to talk to you anymore. And he's like, look, these vaccines could save your parents. They could save children. They're supposed to be for the elderly and everybody that's in line to get them. So she feels bad. And she tells him the information that he needs in order to go to Dr. Alexander's office in order to arrest him, I guess. But what gets me about chicks, like, she real thirsty. Because she's like, I don't care if you married or not. But then when she finds out that Elliott just lost his wife, because he tells her, she gives him a big hug. But then she continues to give him a big hug. Get off me. But anyway, they go into the office and they tell him that basically you're under arrest. So the people that are in the waiting room are like, where are you taking the doctor? You know, we've been waiting for our shot all day. You can't do this. So Elliott, being the smart ass person that he is all the time, forgive me for the word, he tells Sergeant Ayana, he says, well, isn't it a crime or a violation to jump in front of the line for the COVID-19 vaccines? And she said, well, yes, it is. He said, well, you know what? All of y'all are under arrest. She tells them, all of y'all are under arrest. Let's go. So they arrest everybody in his office. You know, this is wild. This is wild. You know, so we come back to the fact that Richard really wants to take the place of his father as far as he was in the mafia, but he wants to do it smarter, more financially savvy. And I get that. What he wants to do is make money, but he doesn't want to do all the work, okay? He wants the mafia people to do all the work while he makes money. So what he does is he walks into this club, and he knows that they're gathering in this club to choose a successor to his father. And you know, we see all the big mafia guys, and they like, look, we ain't seen you in a while. Why are you here? You don't even deal with your dad. You know, they kind of challenging him, but he wants to fulfill his father's shoes, not because he liked them, but he wants the power and the prestige. He makes them a business proposition. We really don't know what the business proposition is, but he takes along his son, Richie. And I'm assuming that this is the same Richie, 30 years old, that they want to throw a birthday party for. Come on. Anyway, we can tell Richie don't really know what he's doing, but he's talking to this waitress after the fact, like, you know, hit me up. I'm going to be here often, so let me get your name. Well, first she doesn't want to do it. But then he tells her, look, I'm going to be here often, and she offers her name, Gina. They get outside to the limo, him and his dad, or their car, their driver, whoever, and Richard tells Richie, he says, what did you learn? And Richie's like, Dad, you sound stupid right now. Look, this is what you need to do. You need to let them do all the work and let us make all the profit. Just do it smoother, like Jeff Bezos. And we know that Jeff Bezos is the owner of Amazon. And he's a billionaire, maybe 10 times over. He said, you want to be the Jeff Bezos of organized crime. And his, you know, his father, Rich, is kind of, digging that. He's like, well, you are my son after all. So he extended the offer, I guess, to this organization to modernize it, is what he said. Elliott asked the sergeant about Washburn, this new guy that's on the crew. He's like, do you trust him? You know, he loud, he boisterous. Mostly when people are loud and boisterous like that, you just really can't trust him. And she said, I do trust him. So, let's just leave it alone. And so I guess I sympathize with him because, well, let's see where it goes. Let's see what he goes. Okay, now they finally get a warrant where they can bug Richard's office, but they only got one. They can't put it in his home, his residence, but they can put it in his office. So they stage, an opportunity where they can get into his office and they get the bug in there. Now, once they plant the bug, they need proof, because they are going to get shut down in 3 days if they don't come up with some proof. So, I'm like, well, what can they possibly get? Because this guy's kind of slick. I mean, I'm just waiting to see what they can possibly do. Now, Richie, who is Richard's son, he wants to be important so bad. So we cut to a scene where he's at his dad's house, and his dad is entertaining people that are getting the vaccine at his house. So it's like a vaccine party. So Richie tells this other guy, yeah, I'm important. I went down to the thing with my dad with the mafia, blah, blah, blah. And he's telling like family secrets real quick. So Richard sees all this, and he tells his daughter, Dana, who is also biracial, go check your brother. So she runs over there. She tries to tell him, what are you doing? What are you talking about? How are you proud of Pop Pop? Pop Pop was Mr. Sinatra, the mafia guy. Well, he's dead, They're his grandchildren. And she basically reminds Richie that her grandfather was a misogynist. He was a racist. He was a murderer. And so he was a thug. And then you can't be proud of that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't even like us because he's racist. She reminds him that Pop Pop didn't love neither one of them. He ain't had no love for that because he didn't believe in the mixing of races. So don't forget that while you getting happy about his reputation. Because Richie's like, well, I respect what he did. And she's like, oh my God, you're not even getting what I said, you know? So Elliott is back at home. He's dreaming. Finally, he's laying down, really. He's on the couch. We see Eli hear some stuff in his room, and Eli's his son. And we see him get out of bed. Well, Elliott is having a nightmare about Kathy, and he keeps calling for Kathy in her sleep. He's on the couch. He's having a bad dream, so Eli tries to wake him up. Well, finally, he wakes his dad up, and he says, thanks, did I freak you out? And he's like, no, I'm okay, Dad. We're going to be all right, is what he tells him. And basically, Eli walks back to his room, nodding. He's going to go back to bed, or try to. But then as Eli walks away, Elliott starts crying. I mean, he's sobbing, crying, and he's sobbing, I'm sobbing. Oh, my God. So anyway, it cuts to a grocery store scene where Sergeant Ayanna meets up with a woman in the store. I guess they going to get some information. Elliott is in the office, actually, Elliott was at home crying and sobbing like that, and I just felt for him. And so after they bust these people about these vaccinations, him and Ayanna, they go to dinner, which is nice. He goes out. I don't see them masking up, but whatever. So they talk, and he tells her, I got to tell you something. And so he starts to tell her that he was at the murder crime scene before. In actuality, he's telling her, I knew what happened pretty much before you did. And she's like, stop talking. Because if you tell me that you took Mr. Sinatra's cell phone, I'm going to have to arrest you. And he's like, okay, I'm going to be quiet now. So they end up ordering dinner. She tells him she'll order for him because obviously he's never been to the soul food restaurant or wherever they at, because he don't want chicken and waffles. And she's like, what's wrong with you? Chicken and waffles is good, but get what you're gonna get. So in the end, he orders chicken and waffles. And I thought that was kind of funny. After that, we see Elliott walking home. He's walking home by himself, or he's at least walking to his car. So we see him, actually he was walking to the hotel, so he must have already parked. He gets out of the car, he sees Eli getting out of a car with a friend or whatever, and he says, Eli, get in the house right now. He's like, go. Because he sees a masked man not too far from where Eli is actually standing. So is this guy here to kill Eli, or is he there to kill him? Well, of course, Elliott, instead of going in the house, he chases the guy. The guy and him get to the van, and the guy gets ready to try to jump in the van, but Elliott drags him out, and he's like, who are you? And he's trying to rip his mask off his face. Well, this guy's not having it. He throat punches Elliott, throws him to the ground, and Elliott takes a ass whooping. You hear me? Because it's two of them. So they jump on him. He does try to fight back. He get in some good licks. But he got his ass whooped today. Okay? Now, not only do he get his ass whooped, but they hit him in the head with the silver pistol. Now, we have seen that pistol somewhere before. That pistol is the same pistol that shot the truck driver, I believe. So, who's this guy? But when I looked at his eyes again, it kind of reminded me of that new guy that I was telling you about that Sergeant Ariana is okay with, because he's the new guy. I forget his name at this moment. I'll put it in the comments or something like that. But anyway, it made me think that, Detective Washburn has something to do with it. Is he involved? And then it kind of like fades to black, because we see before it fades to black that Elliott is now on the ground. Like, he's bleeding badly. He's got gashes in his head. His face is all messed up. He's disoriented. He can't get up. Like I said, he took his ass whooping. But I still love Elliott, and I'm sure he's going to get some licks in later. I'm interested to know what's going to happen, because this Elliott thing that he's dealing with, his, loss of his wife, he hasn't grieved that yet. I want to see what he's going to do with Olivia, because he's treating her like crap. Like, Olivia's there for him. And she's like, I'm here for you, dude, but you're treating me like crap. So, is she going to continue to try with him? And then on top of that, we got to solve the murder of Mr. Sinatra, which we believe is his son, Richard. And we need to solve the crime with Richard with these stolen, vaccines, which they do confiscate some of them from Dr. Valentine's office. So they do get some of them off the street. But this guy's dirty. Richard's got his hand all in the pot, and he's trying to be in every pot at this point. So Elliott is, going to have to catch him, and I bet he does. We know he's our guy. We're so glad to see him. We are loving the new setup of the music. I love the new scene as they come on. Comment below if you think it's Detective Washburn that had that pistol that whooped Elliott and shot the truck driver. Because why would he put a tourniquet on? Why wouldn't he just kill him? You know what I'm saying? Comment below if you think it was rude for Elliott to live like that. And comment below, what about this new crew? What you thinking? I know we haven't seen them like we do with Finn and Amanda and Carisi, but you think it's a good fit? I don't know. Anyway, so glad to be with you guys. I will be back with you with a new episode when it airs. And I love you guys. I love you with the love of Jesus Christ. I hope you have a great day. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you. Bye-bye now.